Um, the comment is, I have a comment here. I've just discovered that this dialectics, what we are doing now, is simple dialectics, but much more is related to, we are looking only for truth values.
For?
Truth values.
Truth values?
Yes. And
why do you say that?
Yeah, truth values in the sense that at the earlier stage in the morning, you talked about the fear of nudity, fear of unveiling what is there. And I've just discovered in our defense mechanism, trying to dodge, it's like everybody wants a cloak, whereas the act of questioning is urging us to remove the cloak. But maybe because we are so used to disclothing the truth with artificiality, that we are afraid. I see much of fear now of not going out and reaching the truth. And thinking that this act of questioning is all. If people should put themselves in the proper perspective of this, I think lies may be buried or be rest for life. And if lies is rested in peace, communication, there will be what I may call economy in the choice of words.
I would have a difference with that. It's not lies, it's that lies would be conscious. It's not that they will disappear, it's this, they would be conscious. I like very much the idea of Ulysses. Why Socrates defends Ulysses or Odysseus against the debate with Hippias. You can look at an article on the website of Irvin about what they call the anti-philosophy. It started with this debate with Socrates and Hippias. And he defends Ulysses because he's a liar. And why he defends a liar? You say, ooh, this is very immoral. Why would he defend a liar? Why would he defend him? Because he's a manipulator. And you know what the advantage of the manipulator? He knows what he's doing. When the person sincere has no clue what he's doing. He's just one in himself. He has no distance. And that's why he defends him. The speech has a function, a conscious function. You cannot say the truth even if you know it. It makes no sense to say the truth. Again, I think the person in front of me is very ugly. Am I going to tell him? Makes no sense. I think he's stupid. Am I going to tell him? No, it makes no sense. If you tell everybody that you think is stupid, you tell them they're stupid. If you tell anybody that's ugly, you think it's ugly, it'd be hell. I wrote a story years ago about hell. That hell would be a place where you would know what everybody thinks. That would be hell. And your own thoughts would be known by everyone. That would be hell. It's horrible. It's a good thing we have lies. Lies is aesthetics. Lies making choice between what you said, you don't say. Pedagogy is lies. I was once in Copenhagen, and a professor from the seminary, not yours, another seminary, took me to a Buddhist temple, and there was a lama making a speech, and he made a speech which functions well in English, how teaching and cheating are the same word. Just inversal letters, saying teaching, cheating, and that was a very insightful idea. To teach is to cheat, to be pedagogical, you have to, like the mathematics teachers, they have to invent problems to get the kids to think, you have to use tricks, you just say things like that, it's boring, you don't get people to think, so teaching. And so this idea that because it's not a questioning of defending a moral perspective, but if you want people to think, you have to invent all kind of crazy stuff so they think. So you have to lie. You have to be creative. You have to make up things. You have to, tell things which are not true. To invent, so thinking is going on. And that might be shocking because often you just think about it from an ethical, moral perspective. And Hippias is very shocked at Socrates. But Socrates, it's terrible, he's lying. When Achilles, he doesn't lie. Yes, says Socrates, but he's very sincere. And every time he says something, he changes his mind. He's sincere every time. Every time he says, I'll fight you sincere. He says, I won't fight you sincere. He says, I fight you sincere. This guy is an idiot. He keeps changing his mind and he's very sincere every time. When Ulysses, when he tells you something, he knows why he says it. And if he changes his mind, he knows why he's doing it for a purpose. So he's conscious. And that's why he defends this person. And that's why, again, I will defend manipulation versus sincerity from the standpoint. Now, of course, if you say, oh, but if somebody declares me that he's in love with me, I would prefer sincerity. That's probably the case. Why not? But that has nothing to do with our business. Our business is to think. No? And when Socrates plays stupid, he plays the idiot. You know? Yes, but that's a necessary thing. Where he has to act ignorant in order to get the truth to come out.
So, do we say now that when somebody lies, when somebody tells lies purposefully, one, that he has a reason for doing that, and for having a reason for telling lies, knowledge is established or reasoning is established.
There is knowledge, there is consciousness.
Okay.
But if a person lies without knowing he's lying, this is the worst of the liars who don't know. And in fact,
you can't lie unconsciously.
Yeah, that's the idea. That's the idea. Okay. And that's called, by the way, a mythomaniac. The guy, he creates, we create castles in Spain, and he lives in there. Yes? I don't know, in English you say castles in Spain? In French,
castles in the air.
Castles in the air.
Yeah.
He makes castles in the air, and he believes so much they exist that he lives there. Now, he's the problem, you know? But that's not easy. So the question is, do we know, you know, what we're saying, or do we know that, you know? So for me, the crucial concept is consciousness, to be conscious.
But this thing you are saying is like it's found in the mostly pre-Socratic philosophers and some ancient philosophers. You discover that they say something even when they know, when they are convinced is not in line with the ordinary affairs of life, and they propound everything within the possibilities of their knowledge to defend it. For instance, now let's take Parmenides, that movement is impossible. And you see him inventing so many things to defend it, to the extent that it becomes nearly a dogma.
So?
But movement equally is possible the other way around. So, do we say now that it's good to tell lies for a purpose? Now I'm putting an ethical question on you.
Well, let me answer with this story of Nasruddin. A friend tells Nasruddin, is everything true? Is everything being said true? And Nasruddin says, yes, everything being said is true. And so his friend says, well, how about the liars? And he said, just go ask them. You like that? Let me tell you a second one. Nasruddin is a judge. And two parties come fighting. And he hears the first part, says, hey, you were right. And then he hears the second party, opposed to the first, hey, he says, oh, you were right. And so somebody listens and says, how can you tell them this is not possible? You tell the first one is right, the first second says, contrary, you say, he's right. You say, you're right too. Yes. That's the point, you know? Yes. The problem is that philosophy has too often become dogmatic philosophy. Useful, interesting, but dogmatic philosophy. Yes, you know?
So, both dogmatic and pragmatism and whatever is right depending on the perspective.
Well, then the risk you have is to fall into then purely relative, because that's not the relativistic system. It says, you want to be pragmatic? Let me check what you do. There has to be some kind, because otherwise you fall into purely relativistic thing, everything goes. But what is the truth of what you're saying? Yes, what is the truth? And of course it's imperfect, of course there are things which are not conscious, of course all this or that, but let's examine. Now, do you want to look how this works? Is there a problem, is there not? Or you don't want to look at it? Yes, I mean that's the whole issue, you know? Yes. Make sense?